our final talk today. My name's Rosie and I'm a dietitian on the advisory board for Plant-Based Health Professionals UK, who are bringing you your talks today. And we're an organisation that supports health professionals and the public to realise the power of plant-based health for health and sustainability, plant-based diet, sorry, for health and sustainability. So we're really delighted to welcome you here today. And I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Ishani Rao. And she's going to be talking about mental health. So Ishani Rao, I understand, is a final year GP trainee, NHS GP trainee. Has a small charity called Buckets of Love, and she's recently done quite a lot of talks in the NHS on plant-based diets and sustainability, which is amazing. And also spoken at Vegan Camp Out as well, which is awesome. So we're delighted to welcome her here today to talk about mental health. Thank you.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming today. I'm such a fidget, so I'm going to take that down. Yeah, I hope everybody's enjoying VegFest. You're having a good day? Yeah? Good. It's been absolutely wonderful to, to see such familiar faces, to see people coming together for such amazing causes, but also for enjoyable food and for such amazing talks and brilliant activities. It's always such a privilege and so inspiring to be part of, isn't it? So I'm going to be talking about the benefits of events such as this, which are so valuable for my mental health personally. Bon appetit! Which is so beneficial for my mental health personally, and I think bringing people together as part of a community is something that we need to encourage more, because so many people are having issues with their mental health, and I'd like to talk a little bit about my personal experiences with that, and also my professional experiences with that as a GP trainee and an emergency doctor in the NHS. So yeah, welcome to an interactive discussion about your mental health. If anybody has any kind of suggestions, burning questions, then I want this to be open and I want this to be a discussion. So please don't shout out, but please do put your hand up if it can't wait. But we are going to have a couple of breaks in between to have a chat about mental health issues, solutions, and then wrap up how everybody's feeling at the end of the talk. So my background is I am a final year GP trainee, and I submitted my exams on Monday, so I've got about 6 weeks to figure out whether I am going to be qualifying as a GP in the NHS. With that, then I hope to move into humanitarian and conservation medicine, because I think it's so very important. I love my job as a GP, but I think I can only have individual impacts, whereas if we do the community things like this, do activism, do environmental things, do animal things, I think that we can have a bigger impact. So that's what I hope to do in the future. I did my degree in women's health at King's College London, which was super enjoyable. I think women are a demographic that are just not studied enough in science and in anything, and that can have significant mental health impacts as well. I'm doing my master's at the moment in global health policy at the London School of Hygiene, which is so interesting. My first lecture was decolonising the medical curriculum. It's like, yes, amazing. I'm proud to work with eco-medics who look at sustainability within the NHS. So if you're a healthcare professional, then please check them out and see which amazing projects they're working on that you can get involved with in your hospital or workplace. And all of this experience has meant that the recurring theme seems to be mental health. Put your hand up if you know somebody or if you've been affected by somebody that has a problem with their heart. Yeah, a few people, it's quite a lot, it's quite high in Western countries. Put your hand up if you know somebody or have been affected by a problem with your kidneys. Yeah, again, sprinkle of people. Put your hand up if you have been affected by, or if you know somebody who has been affected by a problem with the brain, such as mental health issues. That's pretty much everybody here. So I chose this topic, and this topic is really, really close to my heart because it's something that we're not encouraged to speak about. There's still so much stigma about mental health in your workplace. And I think, why are we not treating this like it is a physical problem, which it is? Why are workplaces not giving us the same number of sick days for mental health as is acceptable for a physical health problem, such as heart attacks or diabetes or pain? You know, why are we treating this like it's any different? This is an imbalance in chemicals of the brain, and we need to start opening up the conversation and destigmatizing problems with mental health. So for that, I really, really, truly thank you for coming today, because by opening up this conversation, we are destigmatizing it. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to open up the conversation. So I thank you for that. So, we touched on that a little bit, but 1 in 4 people have a formal diagnosis of mental health problem. So that could be depression, anxiety, bipolar, OCD, schizophrenia. These are all, there's so many other ones, but these are diagnosed mental health conditions by your GP or by a healthcare professional that's then put that on your record. How many people are we actually missing that maybe haven't been able to get in touch with their GP, or maybe haven't felt the motivation to be able to get in touch with their GP? Because to be honest, on a bad day, when you're not feeling well, do you want to sit on hold with really bad music for 2 hours, feeling like you're not a healthcare professional's priority? That's probably not your priority on a day where you're struggling with your mental health. So it's all very well for us saying, go and get in touch with your GP, get in touch with mental health services, but it's not as easy as that, and we all know that. So let's try and think about other things that we can do to try and improve our mental health if we're not able to get in touch with mental health services. I put this in, and it's by a mental health organisation that deals with burnout in the workplace, and I thought it was a really nice infographic. I love a good infographic. And it says that businesses are losing a lot of money due to mental health days. So sick days, the number 1 cause for sick days at the moment, are mental health and something else. Does anybody know what the something else is? There's 2 things which are causing loads and loads of days lost in the NHS. So one's mental health and one's back pain, actually. So there are 2 things that workplaces are losing a lot of time from employees. And I think that's why organisations are now realising we need to start looking after our employees. We need to start giving people time for holidays and to take breaks and trying to encourage them and support them more, because organisations such as Google, Facebook, if you look at all of the things they're doing for their employees, like giving them places to nap, giving them a gym, giving them access to aromatherapy, all of these things, I think it's because workplaces are realising how much productivity is being lost because of mental health. But then that also causes you, in turn, to lose productivity. So workplaces need to be working more to support us. So if you do run a workplace or run a business, start thinking about what things you can do to try and support your employees, because that's a win-win situation. 70 to 75% of people with diagnosable mental illnesses receive no treatment whatsoever, whether that's community therapies, talking therapies, antidepressants. That's a really high proportion of people that are not receiving any support for mental health conditions. So I think my take-home message for that is, if you are struggling, it doesn't have to be from your GP or from mental health services. There are other services available. There are other community services, other charities that you can get in touch with, gardening initiatives. There's loads of things around. So just take that brave step and reach out to them and get the ball rolling with getting some additional support if you are struggling. So I've got 3 anecdotes which are really, really important to me. One of them happened last week, one of them happened last month, and one of them happened, let's say, 5-6 years ago. So I had a patient who came in with ulcerative colitis. So it's an inflammatory bowel disease, similar to Crohn's, but affects more of the gut. And he was a big man, and he was obviously going to the gym, looked really healthy, and he was coming in for something separate. It was just a toenail infection or something like that. So I thought, oh God, this is going to be boring. I'm going to manage it in a couple of minutes. Turns out to be a really interesting consultation, and it just teaches me every time, do not judge. Do not judge what the consultation is going to be, because you never know. So this man came in, and he said, I've got a fungal toenail, and I'm doing really well. So I checked his records, and it said ulcerative colitis. So I said, well, how's the ulcerative colitis going? And he got really defensive. He said, well, I've gone vegan, so I've completely reversed it. And he looked at me, and he waited. I think he was waiting for me to say something like, don't be stupid. You can't reverse your ulcerative colitis with a vegan diet. And Because that's what we do as vegans. You know, we are defensive when we go into the general public because you think people are going to criticize you. You think people aren't going to be on your side. You don't expect people to be on your side. And it's so nice when you find an ally, isn't it? So I said to him, oh, that's absolutely amazing. Can you tell me more about that? Because I'm really interested in the role of vegan diets in reversing inflammatory bowel conditions and inflammatory diseases. And you could just see he just relaxed, you know, all that tension that he was holding and that kind of the nerves that he had and that hostility that he had and that kind of preconception that was negative about coming in to see a doctor. It all just melted away and we had such a nice chat. So that was really nice. Then I had one other patient who was a young lady. She's about 19. I had to take some blood tests for something. I'd seen her a couple of times for a follow-up. And she said to me, we were talking about chronic diseases in the Western world and about how many people suffer from obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, poor mobility, all of these things that are perpetuated by a poor diet and lack of exercise. And she said to me, I just don't know. She was going into nursing, she was a first year nurse. She said, I just don't know how I'm going to cope with that because I'm a young, fit person, I take care of my health, I eat well. I don't know how I'm going to cope with spending my whole life looking after people that don't want to take accountability for their own health. And I said, well, there's some really good resources on plant-based health professionals out there. And she said, what? What do you mean plant-based health professionals? And I said, oh yeah, you know, it's something that's so normal to me now. She said, I can't believe that there's other people like me out there. And she was so emotional, she was almost crying. And I just thought, you know, that conversation has made such a big difference to her mental health, and she can move forward knowing that there are other people that care about causes like she did. And having those conversations can be so incredibly valuable. So don't forget that just by having simple conversations like that, you can change somebody's perspective, change somebody's life, and greatly improve their mental health. Then, just quickly, I'm not going to go into it very much, but as a junior doctor in Croydon, Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells, I trained at King's, so it's all been very, very busy. I got funneled straight into junior doctor training. We've all seen what's going on recently with the junior doctor strike. It's not an easy job. I don't think any job's easy, but it's really not an easy job. I was, running around 30,000, 40,000 steps a day on my own calls. There's no vegan food in the canteen. Patients are dying. You feel like it's your fault, but actually it's more systemic failure. It was a really difficult time, and I was so close. I got down to about 47 kilos or something. I was so close to burnout. I had my thyroid checked, I had my hormones checked. I was like, there's something wrong with me. And my friend, who's an endocrinologist, said, there's nothing. There's your hormones are fine, your blood tests are fine, there's nothing. And I realized, this is burnout. This is so close to being burnt out and to losing the enthusiasm and the motivation that I had previously for other causes. I thought, I'm not sick, I'm not physically sick, but I could get physically sick if I don't drastically change something. And that was my wake-up call when I didn't have the motivation or the energy in the morning to get up and look after my patients. I didn't have that, oh, I'm so excited for today, what am I going to do today? Like I had before and like I have now. That had disappeared because I wasn't feeling supported by my organisation or maybe by the people around me. I was taking on too much at once. And so I changed so much. I went vegan. It wasn't for that. It was for the animals. I've been vegetarian since the age of 10. I've been asking my parents to be vegetarian from the age of 2 or 3. And they said, if you still want to be veggie when you're 10, you can go veggie. So it wasn't for that. It was for ethical and moral reasons. But it helped so much. Going to the gym, finding my people, doing things like this, it completely reversed those feelings that I'd been having of low mood, low energy, pessimism, lack of motivation, all of these things that are cardinal features of burnout. So I was lucky in that I recognized it, but I understand that those symptoms can be really, really vague, so it can be very difficult to recognize. But just keep an eye on it, and if you think that any people around you are suffering from things like that, then do, give them a bit of extra support, maybe have a chat with them and see what you can do as well. It's really, really common. So I love this infographic because it says so much. Burnout and the brain. What is burnout? It is coined by an American-German psychoanalyst. I think in the 70s, he was working with people who were in drug rehabs and also homeless people. And he said that he used to see the drug addicts, he used to see them sitting and staring at their cigarettes, and their cigarette just used to burn out, and they'd just stare at it. But then he also said that he used to see it in the people that were working and volunteering for them, the homeless people and the people with drug issues, and that they would lose their flame and lose their spark. And so he coined the term burnout. There's lots on here. I'll send out these slides. Don't worry about following every word of it. But a couple of things that I just want to highlight and emphasize on here is that stress doesn't cause burnout. It contributes, but some people can just manage stress, and that's absolutely fine. And some people find that loads of stress is okay, and they're motivated by it and inspired by it. And some people find that a little bit of stress on bad days might be that tipping point to say, I can't deal with this today. What causes burnout is inadequate support and inadequate resources by the organisations around you. So I think that there's a huge movement towards resilience and mindfulness, and it's all great. I believe in it, but that is putting the onus on the individual rather than organisations taking accountability for supporting workers. And I don't think that that's right. I think that when you're doing these resilience training days, that's fine. Take all the good that you can out of everything. I truly believe that. But don't think that this is just on you and that this is your fault if you can't cope with this, because this is what large-scale organisations want you to think, and they're taking away the accountability and the blame from themselves and shifting that onto the individual, much like eco-anxiety and climate activism. Oh, don't do that, don't drive a car, don't eat meat, rather than them saying, this is what we're going to do to try and support you. So hold your organisation accountable. If you say, I need a break, I need a sick day, I haven't taken my lunch break, I'm working too many hours, I can't cope with that amount of work, escalate it, because at least then you can say, I've tried to push for that. So, with regards to vegans, my favourite people, I'm not going to go so much into activism burnout today. I'm going to speak a little bit about it, but I'm not going to focus on it because I have a talk on YouTube for it's under Animal Rebellion, but it's for Animal Rising, and it's an hour. So if you want to watch a lecture that I put together about activism burnout, specifically to do with vegans, then just go on YouTube, just type activism burnout and Animal Rebellion, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of really good evidence-based papers that I've put on there. But I am going to talk about compassion fatigue, which has been dubbed the cost of caring, which I really, really like. So, in difference to charitable appeals on behalf of those who are suffering, experienced a result of the frequency of the number of such appeals. So, can anybody just shout out a few people, a few demographics that might be activists? Anybody want to shout out? Yeah, students, exactly. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Retired people might be activists, but what kind of causes might activists be advocating for? So I'm thinking things like racial injustice, climate activists, obviously animal rights activists, LGBT as well. So these are the people that have been studied with regards to activism burnout in papers. There is not a lot about vegan activists at all, which is a pity, and I will eventually start collecting some data once I've got through this GP stuff with some surveys about how you guys are feeling and what the current perception of activism burnout is at the moment. So I just kind of put this graph in here just to annoy my sister because she's a lawyer, and it says that the rates of burnout in lawyers are very, very low. The rates of activists coming on to almost double the rates of overall population. So it's significantly higher. Anybody can suffer from burnout. Anybody can suffer from burnout. Compassion fatigue and activism burnout is something that only select demographics can suffer from. So not only have we got the current mental health stresses, which affect everybody, but we've also got that cost of caring on top of that. So that makes it quite a precarious place for people's mental health. And that's why I think we really need to look out for each other as a community, do things like this, have conversations about mental health, and really think about what you can do to try and improve your mental health, make the time to do it, and also check in on others around you. So yeah, rates are really, really high in terms of burnout and fatigue in activists. The symptoms, I thought this was really interesting because it suggests that physical symptoms are more common than mental and emotional symptoms, and even more common than feelings of hopelessness and pessimism. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So what might some physical symptoms of burnout be? Anybody want to shout out? Physical symptoms of burnout? Yeah? Yeah? Exactly. Yeah, so it could be things like, yeah, exactly. Lethargy, fatigue, irritability, even things like palpitations, neck pain, back pain, stomach pain. People get IBS, there's functional abdominal pain, which people can get, headaches, migraines. Any kind of chronic pain can be exacerbated or precipitated by burnout. So the overlap between physical and mental health symptoms is absolutely massive. Now, one thing I do want to emphasize here is that these symptoms are all very non-specific and quite vague, and they can be presentations of many other things. Illness, vitamin deficiencies, anemia, anything like that. So if you're having symptoms like this, don't just assume, oh, I'm just run down, or I'm just burnt out. Get it investigated, because you don't want to just assume, oh, I'm just burnt out and I've been having a cold for the last 6 weeks. Just have a blood test, just make sure everything's okay. Easier said than done again, but speak to your GP, because these are very non-specific symptoms, but they are symptoms of burnout and fatigue as well. So yeah, we've just been through a bit of these, but I think it's nice to just break them up and compartmentalize them into physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioural as well. So that can manifest as, running late to your work, or abusing substances, gambling, addiction. All of these things can be symptoms of burnout as well. So I love my scientific papers, because this is how organisations, we give evidence to organisations to make change. And this is a really interesting study that looked at 17 animal rights activists, and this was the biggest I could find, so we could easily create a bigger paper. So I will be sending out surveys at some point. It looks at the primary categories of burnout. So it says number 1, intrinsic motivational and psychological factors. So that's about how you're feeling at the moment, your sense of resilience that day, your mood, your attitude to external factors. Organisation and movement culture. So that could be how well your organisation supports you, or how poorly often your organisation supports you, and the factors that it can give to you in order to support your mental health. And I'm just being a bit cheeky here. The one I put in is within movement, infighting, and marginalisation. So I think that we can all be guilty of this, because there's a lot of divide within large-scale organisations, and it really, really breaks my heart to see that when there's so much in-movement fighting, because a house divided cannot stand, I believe is the saying. And it, one, not only creates such big stresses for ourselves if we have poor interaction with a colleague or somebody who's a fellow activist, it causes such big stress to yourself, but it also creates a ripple effect of kind of instability and negativity within that organisation. So I just really want to ask you all to try and recognise that. Obviously there can be tension when you don't agree with how things are done, and these are really big, really important things. But if we can try and do that in a kind of way that comes from a position of empathy, of understanding, of saying, I know that you're trying to fight my battle as well, so these small differences, we need to try and work through that and see if we can do that in a more tolerant and more compassionate way. So, I was gonna do I don't want to ask you to put your phones on unless you really, really want to. So there is this, which I would like to use for kind of other things. If you do want to pop in something for the word cloud, then that would be amazing, because I can at least keep that to use in the future. So if you want to pop something in, then that's absolutely brilliant. If you don't, I don't want you to get like phone fatigue. I don't want to encourage you to do something you don't want to. Then let's just have a chat about it if that's okay. So can we have a chat for 5 minutes? I'm just going to kind of direct it a bit, but I want to open up a conversation here about what your main mental health struggles are as a vegan. The purpose of this as well is if you don't want to say it in front of everybody, then you can just pop it on there and it should populate with a nice word cloud. So yeah, if you guys do that, and then if anybody wants to just give a bit of a shout out about anything that you found difficult as a vegan, or anything that you kind of struggling with at the moment with regards to mental health. Hi. Social isolation. Right, do you care to elaborate a bit more on that? Do you want to tell me about what's going on with you or how that's impacting you?
Well, I'm already autistic, so it's hard to make friends as it is. Already, like, I don't get on with the majority of people, but when I do find someone I'm able to actually, like, interact on the same level with, they're not vegan, so everything that they want to do, you know, I don't drink and I don't eat animal products, so it's like, what do you do with that person? So my social interactions tend to be limited to the people that I work with, because I have to see them. And the other things that people want to do just don't interest me. And that makes it really hard to maintain friendships, and you feel like it's like, oh, would I actually choose you as a friend if I had other options? There's no nice way to say it. It's just, it limits your pool of people that you could interact with.
Yeah, brilliant. Who's your friend?
That's my husband.
That's okay, alright. So you've got a good network with that. And then what's your work?
I work in mental health.
You work in mental health services. NHS?
I work in acute mental health services, really like all types of patients, some learning disability as well. So everyone I know is really interested in mental health, which is nice.
Yeah.
We're in Essex, but yeah, in terms of like outside work, there's a really small vegan community. With my work hours, pretty much everything that's happening is something I can't go to. So it's just really, really small windows to actually interact with people.
Yeah, well done for coming to something like this today. It's so very valuable to have these conversations and meet other people. Have you been meeting other people today?
Yeah, actually.
Have you got anybody's kind of contact details, anybody that you network with? Yeah.
It's really nice to come to a place like this and be like, oh, there are other people like me.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments or any suggestions about how, what's your name? Emma. Any suggestions or any comments about how you guys have managed to improve any sensations or feelings of social isolation?
It's always a good idea to try and attend local social events. Obviously, I think that's exactly what we were all discussing how our world sort of environment is, and there is. So I think there are meetups and Facebook groups and trying to get onto the social things. And I was sort of, when I grew up, I was like vegetarian many years ago, and I was used to go to the only veg in the village, and then it wasn't too much later on I found out there were people in my area. I mean, they're all wrong, but there are also people who know where you go to the village. And that's the thing, you always think you're the wrong person. All my area is too conservative, or it's too whatever. You always think you're going to be anything bigger than you're going to mention. The reality is, there's loads out there. We're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm happy now, having now got like a membership of like many members. You can actually search by areas you can find things John obviously Facebook groups, John meetup groups. You know, there's thousands of people who sort of meetup groups, which are very big ones. So and there's big meetup and so because everywhere's got some sort of social element.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Are you on any of the kind of vegan groups within Essex or your local areas?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not like that many people, and they all seem to meet up at times where I have to be at work.
Yeah, that's the issue with mental health services. They keep mental health services, it never stops. But yeah, just do keep persevering, because I also felt like that for, how long have you been vegan?
20-something years.
Oh well, I also felt like that when I was making the switch from vegetarian to veganism, and I didn't have, you know, like my social group that I have now, and you know, within that, then obviously you meet more and more people, and you get to know more and more events. Yeah, we've got a hand up. Hi. Yeah. Yeah. can talk about that after the talk, okay? I don't want to hear that. Yeah, I completely support that. Definitely, exactly. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So I think for me, being vegan and embracing a plant-based message is different because the people that I come from are an indigenous group in New York called the Ishani Rao, and we have this thing called the Thanksgiving address, and essentially what it does is it honors all life from the ground up. And you say sometimes people can talk, they go for 5 minutes, sometimes they go on for hours. But essentially you honor all life from the ground up, and eventually you reach up to the stars and you spread your message of love to the stars and everything. And when I try to have a conversation about veganism with this ingrained philosophy that our people have, especially pre-European colonization, it's very tough to talk with traditional people that hold this knowledge and get them to embrace a new message of, were it not for colonization, I believe our people would have gone vegan or plant-based, because how do you honor life by killing it?
Yeah.
How do you honor cows? How do you honor the water by polluting it? And I would try to talk about it with some of these elders and these older people, and they are just, some of them are not into it.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you're combining a new message, which a lot of people consider like the white message,
Yeah.
at least in the community that I come from, and they see it as really like a class thing too. And it's tough to have this conversation with people because people struggle with diabetes, obesity. We had a couple murders recently, suicide, and it's like this diet doesn't fix everything, but holy shit, it fixes some of these things. I mean, we can't do some of this stuff. So that's one thing that it's not really a struggle, it's just more.
It's a challenge, let's put it that way. My activism burnout talk for Extinction Rebellion touches on some communication methods for demographics that don't want to hear it, or really difficult groups of people. You know, when you go to that classic Christmas dinner and everybody's like, oh, where's your meat? Or, so are you still going to be vegan next? You know, just those difficult conversations. So definitely check that out, because it kind of talks about the best ways to protect your mental health when you have difficult conversations, because we don't want to stop having those conversations because we still want to elicit change. The fact that we're having to have those conversations means that change still needs to happen. So keep persevering with it. It's not easy. We all work with demographics that we're trying to elicit change in, and that's the reason that we're activists. So yeah, not easy. Also the diversity topic is really difficult as well, because that's another part of the Venn diagram that's added. But again, even more reason to keep having those conversations and to try and find the best method of communication with people. I've often found that it's food. Just bring the food, make them eat it, you know, they will eat it, they won't complain, and then next Christmas they'll be like, so you're going to bring that delicious vegan apple pie then? No, not for you, Auntie Betty. So thank you so much for that. That's absolutely brilliant. So I'm just going to do a bit of a show of hands. What's your main mental health struggle as a vegan? Confronting people. Anybody struggles with that? Anybody that struggles with that? Right. Hostility from others. Anybody that struggles with that? Yeah. Burnout. Anybody that struggles with that? Family tension. Anybody that struggles with that? Dystopia. Anybody that struggles? I don't know if anybody that wants to elaborate on what they mean. Anybody?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, what we know, most people are still paying people for Kimonos.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously that's one of my main struggles as a vegan, but knowing that some people find other things that we find so unacceptable, and that these things are normalized. So yeah, that's a massive struggle. Being teased. Anybody teased by anybody? Animal suffering, of course. Toning myself down. Everybody saying, can you just not mention the vegan thing? Really? The normality of animal abuse, of course. Thank you for doing that. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, thank you. Right, audience participation. How do you look after your mental health? Again, I have one of these. So if anybody wants to do this, then that would be absolutely absolutely great. Let's see if I can do the next slide. Right, so does anybody want to shout out while I figure out how to use technology, which often beats me? How do you look after your mental health? Yeah.
I think sometimes I have to kind of, one thing that someone told me once is that you have kind of a circle of influence, and anything out with that circle, you kind of have to let go a little bit, and that really helps me when I feel like I need to save the world. That actually realising that you can't, you can influence what you can influence, and you can go that far and you don't have to do everything. And I think that really helps sometimes for me to just sit back and say, okay, I can't do that.
That's brilliant, exactly. Knowing when to pick your battles and when to leave something, and also accepting what is in your sphere of influence of change and what might not be. And that's not to say that we shouldn't try and change the things that might be outside of it, but it's also protecting your energy. You have limited amounts of energy. That's absolutely brilliant. Again, if anybody wants to populate that, then that would be lovely. If not, any other ways that anybody does look after mental health? Yes.
Being specific, just surrounding yourself with vegan influences. As mentioned already, being social and so forth, of course, but when you can't be, just like listening to vegan podcasts or something that has really brightened my mood and at times is going on YouTube and searching for vegan songs. And there's all sorts of parodies of modern songs that people have changed the lyrics to, and lots of them are hilarious. And
That's so
it just
funny.
puts you in such a great mood.
It must do. I've never even thought of that, so that's absolutely brilliant. I imagine that that's going to make me laugh when I'm feeling a little bit isolated, or if I'm not getting anywhere with the NHS, which is a big frustration of mine. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Any ways that you found to look after your mental health as an activist? Hello.
When going to sleep is YouTube, really relaxing music, like just falling asleep or to sleep, and smoking, just doing my best to focus on it rather than thinking about anything else.
Brilliant. Yeah. Any particular videos that you found very helpful? Nice. Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. And you commented on two things, you touched on two things there. One is general relaxation. So I think that looks different for everybody, doesn't it? That could be having a massage, having a bath. Some people find the idea of having a bath absolutely horrible and think, oh, that's the last thing I want to do. So I think it's just really individual to everybody. So find that thing that makes you feel very relaxed. Find that thing that makes you feel that your stress levels are going down, your adrenaline, your cortisol, it's all going down. But that can be really individual to you. It could be, aromatherapy or going for a walk or taking a nap, just all of these things, yoga, mindfulness, just finding ways to relax, really important. And then there was another thing that I was going to mention there, but that has completely gone, so it might come back to me. Anybody else? Anyways? Yeah, hi.
Meditation for me.
And can you tell us a bit about how you started meditating, what kind of meditations you do?
I started meditation about 2 years ago in line with therapy, and it just allows me to even just sit there and be mindful for 10, 15 minutes. I can't do any longer than that because I just get less.
Bless you.
Just sort of like processing things or journaling.
Brilliant.
And just to get those things out, like our true meditation on being like how to track one's energy, how to set my foundations, things like that, how to control my emotions, how to deal with things that
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. There is so much evidence to suggest that meditation changes the structure of your brain, and it's something that, in Chinese, Ayurvedic, Hindi medicine, they've been using for 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 years documented. So this is something that's been going on a long time and has been working for a very long time. And actually, it reminded me of the point that I wanted to say about Helen. You very specifically said to just think about that thing. So that's being present, isn't it? And it's the point of mindfulness, is it's bringing you back to that present thing. I can only focus on that thing. I don't want to focus on all of the external buzz and external stresses. So that's a really, really valuable way of just connecting yourself to the present moment. Okay, so who here avoids the Daily Mail? Oh, no, actually I say that. I would like them to interview me, actually. I'm trying to get into the Daily Mail. Travel and eating vegan food? Yes. Going out in nature? Yes. Being active? So very important. Yes. Planting seeds in people? Yeah. Free writing thoughts? Really important. It's like free therapy. Exercise, routine? Nah, I hate that. I hate routine. I like being a bit chaotic, not knowing what's happening every week. So again, really different for everybody. Being around vegans brings me delight, makes me feel happy. Yeah. Self-care. Yes. And again, it's making time for that. And I think something to highlight there is that it can feel impossible to say, I'm going to make an extra 10 minutes a day to do that thing. I'm going to make an extra hour a day to go to the gym. I'm going to do my nails once a week or get my hair done every month, or I'm going to eat well. Sometimes it can seem impossible to add that extra thing to your already stacked workload. Actually, when you start, a stitch in time saves 9. And when you start adding the bits of self-care and the things that make you feel better and looking after yourself, then you can really, really look after other people, look after the animals. If we don't look after ourselves, we're not doing our causes justice, and that's something I had to learn the hard way. Therapy, yes, amazing, brilliant. I think everybody should have a therapist. Keeping yourself busy, yeah, again, can be good for some people. Some people need to take the time off, some people need to chill. Ignoring mainstream news, I found that to be really, really beneficial. I have hidden, if news is important, it's going to get to me. Every day, you've got the BBC News flashes every 10 minutes saying, it's the end of the world, or the royals have had a baby. And it's like, I don't care, and this isn't good for my mental health. But actually cultivating my social media to just be things that are really positive. So there's positive news websites, positive news A+, loads of different platforms which talk about vegan cooking, vegan things, obviously, gardening, just mental health things. Just cultivate your social media to be the people that you want to see and the things that you want to see, and get rid of all of those things that make you feel like you're not good enough, or that your mental health is suffering, and that can be really game-changing. Setting yourself goals, again, can be really, really beneficial. I have a to-do list, but then it really stresses me out when I don't do it, so I got rid of it. And yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. Are you gonna end me? Is that what you're doing? Okay. Let's flick through some bits and bobs. Thank you for that. I will send these out. So self-care we've talked about. This breaks it up nicely. Yeah. Looking after each other is going to be my main message for today. If we can look after the animals, if we can look after ourselves, which we need to make sure that we look out and look after each other, because the benefits of community are immeasurable. Loneliness kills more people than smoking. The Surgeon General of the United States wrote a book, not about surgery, not about politics. He wrote it about community connection. It's called Together. I would check it out. The benefits of days like this are undeniable. So thank you so much for coming to this talk. I will send out the rest of the slides. And here is my contact information if anybody wants to reach out, say anything, or work together. So thank you so much for coming, everybody. Happy VegFest.
Thank you so much. I think that was absolutely fantastic, and I think it's a really important conversation that we're all having. I think it affects us all so much when we're in a position where we're in the minority, we've got quite strong feelings about things, it can be really difficult. So thank you so much for opening that conversation on mental health, which is so incredibly important. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for coming today. That concludes our talks for today. So thank you all much, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the festival if you're here tomorrow. Oh, one last thing. If you're interested, we mentioned plant-based health professionals a few times. So if you're someone who wants a bit of community, wants a bit of support, or you want to know more, we've got loads of stuff on the website, and you can also join as a member as well. We're out there to sort of spread the message on plant-based health for health professionals, but also for the public as well. All right.